Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are back. Going to talk to you guys about NFL quarterbacks. We're ranking quarterbacks 1 through 40, and we're starting at the bottom. We're going to start from 40 and go all the way up to 1. How we're doing this is Jay and I are breaking this out in multiple episodes where we're going to do 5 quarterbacks per episode. Like I mentioned, we're starting at 40, and we're just working our way up. I mean, Jay and I are just going to talk about 5 quarterbacks each episode and go from there all the way until we get to number 1. I'm very interested in hearing who Jay has his rankings, and I know he is mine. We've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, and we're
different lists. We didn't collaborate and come up with our combined 40 through 1. He's going to have 40 through 1. I'm going to have my own 40 through 1. That's what I'm so interested about because we have not shared a single guy between the two. I don't know where he has everybody. I'm curious to see where he has people. It's going to be telling who he has on this episode of 40 through 36 because he might have someone down here in the backup range that I got somewhere in the 20s who I think is a viable starter. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll give some reasons why we have players where they're at. Do you want me to start? Do you want to start at number 40?
Well, first I'll just start off with saying everybody go rate, subscribe, and review to the Unwanted Opinions podcast.
You really should.
Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Unwanted Opinions podcast at gmail.com. Messages, comments, anything. We're here. We love fan interaction. So get after us that way. But Jay, I just want you to also tell them how we're doing this as far as our rankings. Like what is the criteria and so on and so forth.
I threw away my sheet that I can't. So I'll give you a little background. No. I have my guys, but I had a sheet.
No, I didn't. I know that's what I know. You didn't throw that away. At least I figured you didn't.
My original one, how I did it, which it took me 3 or 4 attempts to really, because I was moving guys around. I'd make my list and I'd be like, I think he fits more here. I know I haven't seen much.
It's hard to do it that way.
Well, okay. So my criteria was I had the quarterbacks that I found elite, and there were 4 of them. So I had 4 guys.
I might have the same 4.
I had 4 guys that I considered to be elite. So I just wrote their names in 4 spaces. No particular order, just wrote them in the elite category. Then I just thought that it made sense to do a top 10 since I already had 4. So I put 6 through 10. So I who I thought were the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, not including the elites. That was my next run. And then I had above average. So that would have been 10 through 14. And then I had viable starter, which there was quite a few, honestly. There was
there really is.
And then I went to I had a section where I put unknown players or hadn't shown enough yet that still had some upside.
So you kind of put your quarterbacks into categories and then you ranked them.
Yes, and then I went back because I had rookies, and then I slotted those rookies where I thought they would be this year, because I do want to say that this isn't based off of what I think they're going to be in 5 years. This isn't based off of what they did last year. You might take that into account, but this is the guys that I would want for one season this upcoming year to rank my team, to build my team around. All things the same, all coaches the same, all surrounding cast the same, who I think is just the best quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're saying, all right, put a quarterback on the Chiefs roster, I can name you probably, obviously Mahomes unlocks everything there, but you get my point, whereas you put maybe 6 or 7 guys and you feel confident that they can easily go win a Super Bowl.
We could, just for that example, every quarterback on my list, 40 through 1, put on the Chiefs, and this is how I think they would fare.
Okay.
In order.
All right. I think how I did mine was a little bit different. I mean, I kind of almost went more of who would I rather have? Because obviously, if I would rather have them, I think that they're better. So I kind of just went based off of that. Like, who are the quarterbacks 1 through 40 in a row who I want with leading my team?
That's fair. Start with 40.
Yeah.
Who do you got at 40? Because this
I got
would be
Gardner
a
Minshew.
backup. Okay. You got
I got Gardner Minshew because, I mean, he's proven in the league that he can win you a game if your starting quarterback's out. Now, I don't think he's ever going to be in a starting quarterback probably ever again unless, like, for example, Trevor Lawrence on his own team gets hurt and they got to throw Gardner in for a game. Or if Trevor Lawrence goes out in the third quarter and you have a 10-point lead, you would maybe feel 50-50 that it could go either way, but you would feel decently confident that Gardner could at least get you through to that game. And I think he's proven that over his career where he's not a starter, but he can go win a game. So I got Gardner Minshew at 40. I
actually don't have Gardner Minshew on my list, and I like Gardner Minshew.
I had about 3 or 4 guys right there at 40 that I was like, I could kind of go either way, but I decided to go with Gardner because he's won a couple games in the league.
I went with Mitchell Trubisky at number 40. I think
I've got him right at 39, not to keep going down my list, but I've got him right there.
I think he is a backup in this league. He's proven he could win you some games if needed, but I don't think he's got the mental makeup to be like a great starter in the league. I think he relies on his athleticism a lot, and I don't necessarily believe that Chicago got the best out of him or utilized him the way he should have been utilized. But I also think you've seen enough to realize he's a way better backup than he would be a starter.
Yeah. He is who he is at this point in his career.
Exactly, which I think is at the number 40 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and like I said, I've got him at 39. Yeah, I mean, basically everything that you said. I mean, you know who he is right now, and you made a good point where we talked about this a lot last year, and I think the year before. I don't think Nagy used him correctly, but I'm not even sure that there is. I think he would probably be best suited in what the Ravens try and run as far as with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is 100 times better than what Trubisky would be, but a similar offense, I think Trubisky, that would be where he would succeed the most, in my opinion. But that always doesn't win you quarterbacks. And like I said, Lamar Jackson is the top of the guy that can run that type of offense. And Mitch Trubisky, as the poor man's Lamar Jackson, is probably not going to win you a lot of games.
That's fair. At 39 for me, I had Jacoby Brissett. I think.
See, I don't have him in my list.
I think he's got a little bit better arm than Trubisky. He doesn't take nearly enough chances. I do think he's a smart player. I think he's more mobile than people give him credit for. He's won some games with the Colts. He's won multiple games with the Colts, and I think he came in. I think he's a good leader. I think his teammates like him, which you have to take into account if you're building a roster around a quarterback. I think leadership has a lot to do with it and mental makeup. I don't think he takes enough chances for me, but I think, again, in this 40 to 36 range, you're a backup, 40 to 31 range. You're a backup quarterback and a good backup quarterback, one of the top-tier backup quarterbacks in the league, which is, I think, right where Jacoby Brissett falls for me.
I can agree to that. Like I said, I don't have Jacoby on my list, but my next guy is Taylor Heineke from Washington. I loved what I saw out of him in that playoff game. He's just one of those guys that you're going to throw him in, and he's just not afraid of the moment. I mean, they only lose to Tampa, the eventual Super Bowl champions, by 6. They honestly, you could argue that they played Tampa the best.
They were coming back, and they had a chance to win the game at the end of the game.
Yeah. So I know he hasn't played a lot of games in there, and again, he's down at 38, so I think he's probably a career backup. But I just liked what I saw out of him, and I think he can come in and he could do a couple things because he's pretty mobile. And like I said, I think sometimes you just need that guy as your backup quarterback that just isn't afraid.
I like it. I mean, he plays a lot like Gardner Minshew. He's taking chances.
He does.
Yep, he's just out there kind of playing backyard football and making plays happen. So I don't mind.
Yep.
I don't have him on my list. I'd be lying if I said I didn't forget about him. I still don't think I would have put him on my list, but I like that you brought him up, and especially because of what he was able to do last year and how well he did play against that vaunted Buccaneers defense who they destroyed everyone in the playoffs. So I like it. I actually think I have a controversial one here at 38 because he's probably going to be the starter this year for the Saints. I got Taysom Hill at 38. He's down pretty low, and
he's a little higher on my list, but not much.
I think a lot of people, they just gave him a $160 million deal.
You think he's going to be the starter?
I do. I think he's going to start the season for them as a starting quarterback. I think eventually
I think it's going to be Jameis.
Jameis's job by the end of the year, about midway through maybe, and he'll still have packages. But I think he starts the year as their starting quarterback, and I just don't think he's that good. I don't think he's a starter in the league. I don't. I think he's a role player. He's older. So he's I think he's like 32 or 33. So,
but that doesn't mean he's as bad as every starter in the league.
No, it doesn't. But I have him right there at 38. I think he can make some plays, but I think.
Well, you clearly think he's better or not as good as any of the starters in the league, but keep going. I don't, but
I just think he's been a role player and a damn good role player, but asking him to be.
He's a gadget guy.
He is. He's a little bit better version of what Tim Tebow was coming into the league.
Yeah.
He was just blessed to have an offensive coordinator and play caller like Sean Payton to sit behind. Granted, Tim Tebow
played with one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the league.
To learn from, yeah. And he's never been asked to be the guy. So I just think he'll make some wow plays if he's asked to throw 30 times a game and lead a team. But he's also going to make some plays like, what were you doing there?
Yeah, I think you've seen it throughout his short stint is trying to do that. So
I have him at 38. You said you have him higher.
Not much, but a little bit higher.
I'm not big on him being the starter or a starting quarterback in the league.
No problem with that. I've got Tyrod Taylor here at 37. I think again I
have Tyrod Taylor at 37.
All right. Well, we both got Tyrod Taylor at 37. Yeah. He's a career backup.
But a good
he's
backup.
Another guy. He's a good backup to have on your team. I think he's an important guy to have in your locker room. He's been around. He's won a lot of games as a starting quarterback. Honestly, he has. And he's just a guy who he doesn't stretch the field. He relies too much on his mobility. I might say this a lot for some of these quarterbacks, but at this point in his career, he is who he is. And he's a decent backup. He can probably win you a game or two, but he's never anybody you can count on if you want to win at the highest level.
I'll tell you why I have him at 37. A lot of the reasons you said. One thing, if you're going to be a backup quarterback and you're coming in as a reliever, you can't turn the ball over. And he's one of the best at not turning the ball over. He just doesn't throw interceptions. He's smart with the ball, maybe a little too smart for his own good because, like you kind of mentioned, he's looking for that check down instead of the touchdown. Mm-hmm. So I like Tyrod Taylor. I think he's smart. I think, again, teammates like him. I think he's an
important player to have in your locker room.
A good enough arm, and he doesn't turn the ball over. So being at 36 or 37, that would be the fifth best backup quarterback in the league. And he's up there in age. I still think he has some football in him. And I think it's a perfect slot for him, seeing how we both had him at 37.
Yeah.
I have no complaints, obviously, because I also have him right where you have him listed.
Yeah. All right, Jay, 36. This is you may laugh. You may laugh who I have at 36, but
I got pissed.
I got Tua at 36, man. I'm not sure where you have him, but
not much higher.
We feel honestly dead even. Our takes are exactly the same on Tua. They have been for years. I just don't see it with him. I just don't. I don't think I don't think he earned to be the starter. He was given that starting role because of management and ownership, and there's no way in hell Brian Flores actually wanted to play him over Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was just clear. He got benched multiple times in games, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick had to bring him back, and so he could maybe move up the list. I know it's only his second year, but I just was very, very, very unimpressed with his rookie season, and I'm just not sure the grass is greener for him.
I don't
He's
have
injury prone. He's not very accurate. He doesn't have a very strong arm. Best case scenario for me where he could get in his career is 25.
I would say he has the potential to get a little higher than 25 at
because
his absolute
I'm
best.
less confident in him being an average quarterback than I used to be.
Well, last year sure as hell didn't help. So,
and that's why he's at 36 for me.
I don't have him much higher. You'll be hearing his name shortly on the list. It's a spoiler. It's going to be the next episode because this is 36 is the last quarterback for this episode. 36 for me is Drew Lock, and I know you like him. I'm sure you don't have him that much higher because we haven't seen a whole lot out of him. But I have Drew Lock at 36 because I've seen enough to where he can throw the ball deep. I've seen an arm. He's got tons of weapons. He's super young. He fell in that category of still unproven. So we don't exactly know what he is yet. You said on a couple of guys earlier, he is who he is. We don't know who Drew Lock is yet, but we've seen some upside. I haven't seen anything that says his teammates don't like him. I saw some immaturity issues coming out of college, so I haven't really had those dispelled yet. So all things considered, I like Drew Lock at 36. Again, a top-tier backup. I think
definitely
a star in there, like a top-tier quarterback in Denver, and I think they're a top-5 offense in the league. With him, they were below average. So what's that tell you about Drew Lock? I don't know yet. It's TBD. But right now, I think he is a backup quarterback from what I've seen and
he's still a work in progress.
Yes, what I saw him coming out. And a couple years from now, maybe I think more highly of him. But as of right now, I like him right in that 36 range.
All right. Well, I mean, that'll do it for 40 through 36. Like I said, Jay and I are continuing down this road of doing all these quarterbacks. So we'll go 35 through 31 on our next episode. So make sure to check that out. As we said at the beginning, rate, subscribe, review, follow us on any platform. You know how to get in touch with us.
Comment if you would disagree with us.
There you go. That too.
What you do like, what you don't
like. We'll comment back.
I might go ahead and put our list in an actual list as well and release them by day. That way you can actually physically see the list as well. I don't want to spoil anything, though, so I don't want you reading the list before you watch the episode.
Exactly.
So I haven't decided how I'm going to do that yet. But if you listen to the episode, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, however you listen to it, however you watch it, I want to know what you think about whether you were for our picks, if you like Nick's picks better than mine, if you just flat out hated our picks, what you didn't like about it. Just let us know.
Or you can give us your rankings.
Yeah, I'd like to see those as well because
it's honestly it's harder than it sounds. Because at first when we did it, I was like, oh, that'll be easy, 40 quarterbacks, whatever. But you get down to it, it's actually a lot tougher than it seems.
Kind of like we were talking before.
It's going to get tougher as we go further along this list too.
The top 10, I had a fairly easy time coming up with them. The rest, you could swap 16 for 28, and I probably wouldn't have that big of an issue with it.
I told you from about 16 to honestly like 28, 29, I was like, damn.
I know.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get out of here on this one. Until next time.
Let's get out of here on that one. Until next time.